On a quiet night on the shore of a small fishing village, where the fishermen depended on the sea for their livelihood, rumors spread about an abandoned ship that had suddenly appeared on the horizon. It wasn't an ordinary ship. It was completely black, floating silently without sails or lights. The villagers hesitated to approach it, but curiosity eventually won out. 5 brave fishermen decided to take their small boat and head toward the ship. As they got closer, they noticed that the ship was eerily old, covered in seaweed and barnacles, as if it had spent centuries underwater before resurfacing. Once they boarded the ship, they felt a chilling cold, even though the night was warm. The wind whispered strange sounds, like the voices of people in pain. The fishermen discovered that the ship was completely empty. No crew, no passengers, but something was off. They found fresh footprints on the deck, even though they hadn't seen anyone. With each step they took, faint lights flickered in the distance, as if the ship was leading them to an unknown destination. Suddenly, their small boat began to drift away, as if pushed by unseen forces. They tried to jump back onto their boat, but the ship itself seemed to prevent them. The doors slammed shut behind them, trapping them. As they searched for an escape, they discovered a hidden room deep in the ship. When they opened the door, they were met with a horrifying sight. Old, decayed corpses, dressed in clothing from centuries ago. Suddenly, the corpses began to move slowly, as if waking from a long sleep. The fishermen realized they weren't alone on the ship. The legend says that this ship was known as the Ghost Ship, sailing the seas for hundreds of years, haunting anyone who dared to board it. It is said that the original crew was cursed, and anyone who approached the ship would become part of its crew forever. The 5 fishermen disappeared that night, and no trace of them was ever found. The ship? It vanished once again into the fog, as if it had never existed, but it always returns to haunt the dark seas on moonless nights. Will you dare to sail those waters? Years passed after the disappearance of the 5 fishermen, and the story of the ghost ship became part of the village's folklore. It was told on dark nights around the fire, and each new generation of fishermen was warned never to sail into the foggy waters where the ship was said to appear. But human curiosity knows no bounds. Decades later, a bold young man named Omar from the same village decided to prove the legends wrong. Omar didn't believe in superstitions, and he thought the disappearance of the fishermen years ago was nothing more than an accident and that the ship was merely a collective illusion. On one foggy, moonless night, Omar set out alone in his small boat toward the same spot where the ship was rumored to have appeared. The sea was unusually calm, and the sky was void of stars. Suddenly, just as it had happened years before, the wind began to blow, and thick fog engulfed the area. The ship appeared, that same black, haunting ship, emerging out of nowhere. Omar didn't back down. He boarded the ship himself. Everything was as described in the legends: the eerie silence, the freezing cold, and the shadows moving in the corners. As he moved through the ship, he heard a faint voice, as though calling from afar. The voice led him to the same hidden room where the 5 fishermen had discovered the crew's corpses. But this time, the corpses were standing, their open eyes following his every movement. Among them, he saw the faces of the 5 fishermen who had disappeared years ago. They were now part of the crew, their hands outstretched as if trying to warn him, or perhaps inviting him to join them. Omar tried to escape, but the ship itself seemed to trap him. Every time he tried to open a door or return to the deck, the doors slammed shut in front of him. It was as though the ship was alive, controlling every move. The eerie voice returned, this time louder, as if the sea itself was calling him, inviting him to stay forever. In a moment of terror, Omar realized the truth. This ship wasn't just an abandoned vessel, it was an eternal curse, gathering the souls of those who dared to challenge it, trapping them in a state between life and death until the crew was complete. That night, Omar disappeared, and no trace of him was ever found. When the villagers went out to search for him the next morning, they found his small boat drifting near the shore, completely empty, as if nothing had happened. Since then, the legend of the ghost ship has become an inseparable part of the village's history, warning all those who dare to face the mysterious depths of the sea. Some say the ship still sails the dark oceans, appearing suddenly to capture the souls of adventurers who dare to approach it, making them part of its eternal crew.